Targeting and then creative are both maybe equally important. Certainly, they're both very important. So when I say creative, that's the actual video, the actual messaging we're going to display. So I'd say, I'd start with that and say, again, what is it that we want to communicate?
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
If you struggle to be seen in the ocean of YouTube videos and are thinking of implementing ads, today's episode is for you. John Horn is the CEO of Stub Group, a digital advertising agency and a premier Google partner, and he'll be sharing his tips on how to leverage ads for business growth. If you want to learn how to effectively use YouTube ads for your business, you won't want to miss this conversation. So, John, welcome to the show.
Candy, thank you so much for having me.
I'm happy to have you here today. I'm sure this is a topic that will be interesting to many because a lot of people are starting to use YouTube. If they haven't, been using it for quite a while, probably want to know how to get seen and maybe haven't even thought of ads, for YouTube. We've heard of it of other social media platforms too. But I first would love to even just start with, what is a key element that people have to have in their ads to make sure that it's even engaging and effective, that someone is going to pay attention to it and, click on their ad and follow through with it?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. There's a lot of different aspects that can go into successful ads on YouTube, and there's also many different types of angles that can work. There are all sorts of different types of ads. I think the core thing at the end of the day is you want to know what you're trying to accomplish with this ad. What is the action you want the person seeing the ad to take, or the information you want them to walk away with? And so there's, as with most things in marketing, there's a funnel. People are going to be in different places in that funnel. And so if you're aiming for more kind of direct response, lower side of that funnel, it might be a very specific offer that you're communicating. Hey, come get my free ebook, or hey, come schedule a free demo, whatever it may be. Whereas if it's higher level, maybe you might not have a specific offer you're trying to communicate yet. You're just trying to get people kind of into your ecosystem, maybe get them to subscribe to your channel and just find your content helpful. And so you might have a different way you'd approach the messaging in that type of a video.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I have been watching videos before and seen ads from different things. I actually became a customer of one of those ads once because I'd seen something. It was a need I had, and I was like, oh, great, that's, perfect. And I used it. And they're usually on someone else's ad or, videos or something too, so do these sometimes play on our own videos as well? Or are they always going to show up on other people's videos? How does that even work?
Yeah, so there's a lot of options with advertising on YouTube. First, let's kind of break it down and go through some of the options. So first, we can talk about targeting, and this is just like you're asking, where is the ad going to serve? And there are different ways you can target on YouTube. You can try to get very precise by saying, hey, I'd like my ads to appear on specific channels when people are watching videos on those channels. But most often, and where we generally see more success, is with more audience-based targeting, where you're identifying to Google, this is the type of person that I want to see my ad. And I don't really care too much what video content they're looking at. I want to make sure I'm showing my ad to the right person, whether they're watching, a Mr. Beast video, or they're turning on listening to music, or whatever it is. That's the type of person that I want to target with my ad. And that could include serving ads on your own channel. You can serve ads on your own channel if you target your own channel. But most of the time, that would fall under what we call remarketing. And so this idea with remarketing is, hey, people who've already been engaging with my content. It could be they've come to my website. It could be they've watched my YouTube videos. I know they're interested, they're somewhat qualified, they're engaged, and now I can target them as an audience. Again, wherever they're watching video content, I can serve ads to those people, trying to push them down the funnel from someone who's just watching my video content to someone who's actually taking the action I want them to take.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about, the audience, like how granular can you get in terms of, can you say in certain regions, can you say ages, can you say genders? Like what can you do in terms of making sure you're targeting that right person for you?
Yeah, a lot of different options. I think everything you just mentioned there is possible. So geographic targeting, age range targeting. Google has a few different age ranges that you can target. Gender. There are some additional things you can layer on as well, like household income, which is really more of a geographic targeting. So it's targeting people who are in more on average affluent zip codes, for example. So if you have a luxury product, you might want to target people who have more disposable income, for example. So there's a lot of those, kind of demographic based things you can target. And then Google has just a wealth of information about people who are on YouTube. Most people who are on YouTube are also doing Google searches. And so Google can build what they call these in-market audiences. Let's say you're looking for a house right now. Well, Google is going to probably have a pretty good sense that you're in the market for a house because you're searching around, you're going to Zillow, things like that. And so they might have an in-market audience of people who are searching for houses. And if you're selling a product to someone who matches that category, you could target that in-market audience. And then there's also some other creative things that you can do where you create what they call custom audiences, where you can, for example, you can say, hey, I want to target people who've been searching for these types of things on Google. So you can provide kind of a keyword list to Google. And if they identify an audience of people who are searching for those things, then you can target those people. And you can also do things like adding in competitor URLs, website URLs into that list. And so if Google's identifying that, hey, these people are going to these competitors' websites, and you're saying, hey, I want to show my ads to these people because they're likely going to be interested in the product that I sell or the service I sell, then that can be very effective as well at building an audience.
Mhm. Perfect. So if someone is ready to put ads on YouTube, what can a business owner do to make sure that it's going to resonate with the audience that they are looking to attract?
Yeah, so I would say targeting and then creative are both maybe equally important. Certainly, they're both very important. So when I say creative, that's the actual video, the actual messaging we're going to display. So I'd say I'd start with that and say again, what is it that we want to communicate? And sometimes you can get a leg up. So let's say you're already putting content out, maybe through your YouTube channel, maybe Instagram or TikTok or something. If you have videos that are performing well, those could be videos that would be great to run as ads to get additional exposure. So let's say maybe you've done an intro of your business and hey, it's picking up traffic, people are watching this video, sharing it, etc. Great, that means it resonates. And then the ad side of things is really just fuel on the fire to get that in front of more people. So that's a great kind of shortcut if you do have organic content that's already working well. If you don't, then, and even if you do, a lot of it comes down to testing with YouTube. It comes down to let's create a couple different variations, a couple different options, and let the data dictate what is resonating with the audience. So you're going to look at things like view percentages, how long are people watching the ad? Are they clicking skip right away, or are they hanging around to watch it? What action are they taking after watching the ad? Are they clicking through to your website? Are they subscribing to your channel? Things like that, and then comparing different videos, different angles against each other to see which ones resonate the most, and then putting more ad spend behind that to take advantage of that.
Mhm. Does it matter how many subscribers somebody has on their own channel if they want to do an ad that's going to be, placed on someone else's videos, or does that not matter at all?
It really doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't play much of a role. You can run ads with 0 subscribers on your channel. You can run ads with 100,000 subscribers. Um, one one thing to keep in mind is that running YouTube ads can be an effective strategy to build subscribers on your channel. Because if you are sharing helpful information, especially if you think of it less as an ad, I mean, it really comes down to the type of business. If you're a plumber, then you're probably not going to have a lot of people coming subscribing to your channel because they don't care. But if you're a business that services plumbers and you're putting out a lot of really interesting content, educational content, because you can sell consulting to them or whatever, then they might be exactly the type of person to come and subscribe to your channel because they want more of that content. And so you can use those ads as a way to just get in front of more people and drive them back to subscribe to you, so that then you can keep sharing information with them and nurturing that relationship through your organic content that you're posting on your own channel.
Mm. So how long should these ads be, or do they have like different levels? Like you pay so much for like 30 seconds and then it's so much more for, the more that you have. How does that work?
Yeah, so generally speaking, the way that you pay Google is based upon a view. And generally speaking, what Google defines as a view is kind of one of two things. If the video is longer than 30 seconds, then if they reach the 30-second mark, that's a view. If the video is shorter than 30 seconds, then when they reach the end of the video, that's a view, generally speaking. There's sometimes some nuances, different campaign types, but that's generally speaking kind of how it works. And so the length of the video, in a vacuum, it doesn't really matter. We've seen very short, very long videos perform well. It comes down to, again, what your goal is. So we've seen good success sometimes with people doing like really long video ads where it's educational and training, and it was resonating with the audience and people were engaging. But most of the time, most ads are going to be on the shorter side of things, because most people, when they see this ad come up, it's interrupting their viewing of other content. So most people want to move beyond the ad. So a lot of ads are going to be in that more 30-second, 60-second space, or even much shorter if you're using like bumper ads where it's 6 seconds or 15 seconds, where it's just a really kind of quick intro. But the one thing I would definitely encourage all businesses when they're making video ads, really think about that first 5 seconds, because that first 5 seconds is the time that you have before someone can skip your ad. So they have to see that first 5 seconds. So you want to, A, hook them into why they should keep watching the ad. B, you want to communicate who you are, your name, and what you're doing in that 5 seconds, because most people are going to skip. And so a lot of people make the mistake of not saying who they are, not having their brand name, their name, whatever, in that first 5 seconds. And so people might skip and have no idea what they were just watching. And, you have no free brand exposure. Whereas if you got your brand, your name, your important kind of what you're trying to communicate during the first 5 seconds, you get a bunch of essentially free advertising, because even if people skip your ad, they've still been exposed to you in that way.
So can you give an example of that then? Because 5 seconds seems awful short to have a hook and who you are and what you're doing. So I would love for you maybe to just give us an example so people can hear, this is 5 seconds and this is what you need to have in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the easiest things is just, making sure you have your logo, and including your business name, somewhere on screen in those first 5 seconds. So let's say Airbnb is going to put out an ad. Well, you could have the Airbnb logo somewhere, top left, in the background, wherever. But by doing that, people are being exposed to that, seeing the name. If you're I don't know why I'm picking plumbers today, but if you're a plumber, you got your, John's Plumbing Service logo right there. And then people are seeing that, so they have context for what the ad is. And even if, again, they're not paying much attention to it, that's still getting in their brain. And so if they keep seeing that, or hey, if they go and search locally and John's Plumbing Service comes up, there's some connection there. They've already seen that. So just having kind of your logo, including your business name, on screen somewhere during those first 5 seconds is a really easy way of communicating that. And then you want to, it could be a tease. So let's say, let me think of an example. Okay, let's stick with the plumber. So let's say you've got, a minute ad about why your plumbing service is amazing. You could spend the first 15 seconds with, a little scenario of someone with a leaky faucet, and then after that 15 seconds, then it's like, hey, here's how we can help, blah blah blah. Or you could tease. You could be like, hey, John's Plumbing Service, family owned business in San Antonio, Texas since 1989, and just real quick, kind of communicating that, and then going back into that whatever the longer form ad is, but you're making sure people got that important message immediately during those first 5 seconds.
So have you seen, like which length maybe is even better. You know, like you said, some people maybe have long form and maybe people are really watching it. I know you said shorter is good, but you know, you said even like a bumper one, like 6 seconds versus, 30 seconds or whatever, like in terms of views and people engaging, like, do you have stats on which ones really are best to use?
The short answer is no. I mean, there are tons of stats, yes, but the short answer is that it really just depends on what you're trying to communicate and on the business. And so all sorts of different angles and approaches work. The way I would think about it is for the really short ads, the 6 seconds, the 15 seconds, that's more about just kind of either reminding someone of you or getting in front of them for the first time to create some quick awareness and then maybe repeating that over time. You're obviously not going to be able to tell much of a story during that. So you might see, I see Liberty Mutual, I think insurance all the time. They'll have these really, quick ads that also happen to tie in with other ads that they're doing in other places. And so it's more of just remember, oh, Liberty Insurance, we're here, that type of thing. But it's not going into a long reason about why they're better than the competition. So short ads are really good for that. And then, longer ads, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, that type of thing, that gives you more opportunity to tell a story and to explain or to show how maybe you solve a problem that the customer has, or why you're the right choice to work with for X, Y, and Z reason. And then, so I'd say a lot of ads are more in that 30, 60, 90-second range. And then sometimes people will play around with those much longer ads. I've seen ads an hour long, and usually they're most people aren't engaging, but that's really more about kind of qualifying an audience. Because if someone does watch a significant percentage of that, that tells me, okay, they were really, really interested. And now I might create an audience of just those people that watched a significant percentage of that longer video. And now I'm going to go after them with more targeted, more direct response ads because I know they're warm, they're qualified, and they might be ready to take the action I want them to take, purchase a product or service.
So what's the typical expense that someone would expect to pay to have YouTube ads?
So the way that you pay is a cost per view model. So you're paying basically a little bit per view, and a lot of people also look at it as what you call a CPM basis, which is really cost per 1,000 impressions, and they'll look at that to compare that against maybe Meta ads or other places where they're running somewhat similar ads. And the cost usually like per view, it's very low. It might be a fraction of a cent. It might be a couple cents, depending upon what you're targeting and how small or large the audience is that you're targeting. You can spend, you could spend a couple dollars a day if you have a small audience and you're just trying, let's say you're trying to remarket to people who've been to your website. Probably a couple dollars a day would be fine to reach everyone who's been to your website. And you probably wouldn't want to spend more than that because you're going to annoy them by constantly showing up too many times. Or, you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a day if you have a massive audience and you're really trying to scale. So it's, the potential is massive because YouTube is such a large platform and so many people are spending so much time there. It's very scalable, but you also don't have to invest a ton of money to get started, especially if you have a smaller audience that you're trying to reach.
So how long should we have ads running, before we realize if they're really effective or not?
Yeah, it's a very important question because understanding whether or not the ads are effective is kind of a big deal. Is there ROI coming from the money we're spending? And it is tricky. Attribution is tricky with YouTube ads because, again, most people are not going to take direct action on the ad themselves. You're interrupting other content. So it's not like a search ad on Google where someone searches for plumber near me, they click, they call, you can track that. And so when we look at the success of YouTube ads, we look at as much direct attribution as we can. We want to see, are people clicking through the ads, getting to landing pages, things like that. But then we're also looking bigger picture at the overall lead volume or sales volume for the company and trying to directionally track that and see, hey, when we're investing into YouTube in this way, are we seeing a growth in traffic to the website, in leads coming in, sales, etc. And we'll try and correlate that. And understanding that we're not going to be exactly able to prove exactly which orders necessarily came from YouTube, but we should start to see the numbers improving as we spend money on YouTube. And if we aren't seeing the numbers improving, then that's an issue, and we need to reevaluate, maybe change strategy, etc. So from a time frame perspective, that's going to definitely that's going to be impacted by the amount of money that you're spending. If you're spending a couple dollars a day, it's going to take a long time to collect much data to see any kind of moving of the needle on your business. If you're spending a couple $100s a day, you're going to be able to see that much faster. So usually speaking, we're looking in time frames of weeks and months. If I start investing a decent amount into YouTube advertising, I'm going to be looking in maybe the next couple of weeks after that to see, am I seeing those bumps in traffic and performance? Because again, it's higher funnel, so it's going to take time for people to have watched the video and then come around and take the action that you want them to take, generally speaking.
Well, and obviously, if you've got a video and you want someone to follow through, you've got a link or something for them to click that will take you, whether it's to your website or some type of interest form or something. So when you're looking at your metrics, is there something on YouTube that actually says like how many people clicked, how many people viewed your ad? Like what type of metrics can you even see, I guess, within YouTube?
Lots of fun metrics. Google loves data, so there's lots you can see. So absolutely, you can see how many people are clicking through a link that you have in your ad to visit your website, for example. You can see how many people are watching the ad. You can look at the breakdown of retention rates. So you can see a graph of when are people dropping off the video. And that can be very, very helpful in identifying, hey, maybe you've got a slow point in the video and people are getting bored or thinking it's not relevant to them and they're dropping off, and you kind of see this drop in the graph, and then you can course correct. You can say, okay, let's re-edit the video or create a little bit different video and try to get that retention rate going up. And YouTube also, generally speaking, retention rate is a big part of what Google looks at on the organic side of things to say that people find a video engaging. So the more people that are watching more of the video, the more Google is going to like your video and want to serve it more often. So you can see that kind of data. You can see things like how many people are subscribing to your YouTube channel after watching your ad. You can see if they're going to watch what they call like earned views. So are people going to watch other videos on your YouTube channel after seeing your ad, which is a great sign of interest and hitting a relevant audience. And you can also see all sorts of kind of breakdowns of, by device, by location, by some of the things we mentioned earlier, like gender and age range. You can see how different buckets are receiving your ad. And then sometimes you want to make optimizations based on that. If you're like, hey, it's just not hitting with this age range over here, let's maybe exclude it. So we're not spending money and trying to reach that age range. Let's focus on this one over here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I was going to ask about optimization too, and you just happened to mention that. So, what do business owners do, to make sure that their ads are optimized for the campaigns, reaching the right people? Because again, I might say I'm a business owner, I want to attract business owners, and maybe it's feeding it to some people who are business owners, but they aren't in a space where they need my service. Like, so how do we fix that so we really are getting to our target audience?
Yeah, there are a lot of ways to optimize things. So first of all, generally speaking, you want to be testing a couple of different things. So testing like multiple videos that we talked about earlier. So you can compare and contrast and say, okay, this video is getting better view rates, cheaper views, whatever the metric is you want to focus on. Great. So let's make this one the winner, pause the loser, and then maybe, test some different aspects of this winner and keep trying to iterate. So on the creative side of things, the video side of things itself, there's a lot of creative testing you can do over time. On the audience side of things, one thing that we can look at a lot is what Google calls the placements. So this is the content people are watching on YouTube when they're seeing your ad. And this can be important because YouTube's not a perfect channel. There are issues sometimes with bots and just really low quality traffic. And so you might see, hey, half of my traffic is coming from this random foreign language music channel. I really don't think my target audience is spending a lot of time watching that. Let's exclude that placement so my ads don't show there. And so that's one big thing you can do is monitoring that. And the more you see content that is relevant to who you're targeting, the better. So if you're a small business owner and you see, oh hey, people watching my video are also watching, Alex Ramosi and Seth Godin and whatever other people in the same space, that's a great sign. It's like this is probably the right type of person. Again, if it's like a bunch of foreign language music stuff, probably not as good. So you can do optimizing with that. You can do optimizing like we talked about with looking at different buckets of how audience is performing, genders, age ranges, etc. And you can make changes based upon that. And yeah, you can test different lengths of videos, see if the shorter versus the longer work. And probably the most important thing of all to be testing is really the offer in the videos, what it is you want people to take action on, because that's going to have a big impact on what happens if you're asking someone to subscribe to your channel versus asking someone to go download a free ebook versus asking someone to buy a $5,000 bike. Like there's a lot of different offers you can have, and that's going to really impact again how people engage with those videos.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it matters? Like, let's say you have a little bit higher end, like you just talked about, a more expensive bike. Do you find that if you're going to have maybe a higher end offer, that the amount of time for your ad really does matter? Like the 6 second maybe doesn't work and maybe a minute does, or maybe longer. Like, have you found any correlation between that?
I think with really, and this applies to whether it's a higher price point or a lower price point product, repetition is important. So generally speaking, you serving an ad one time to someone, they're not going to take action on that, regardless of kind of what it is most of the time. It's when they continue seeing you over time and then it starts to click. There's all sorts of studies. Everyone has a different number. They'll say, some people are like, oh, you got to see an ad 17 times before you registers or whatever. There's lots of different numbers, but I think everybody agrees you got to see an ad number of times. And so again, kind of regardless of price point, a lot of people will use that repetition or use those different angles. So they'll try to fight creative fatigue, where people get annoyed by seeing the exact same ad multiple times, by having a couple different versions, couple different lengths. Kind of going back to that Liberty example, they'll have kind of a general campaign they're running with a longer video, and then they'll cut different sections of that, and it's just kind of a reminder. It's like, oh yeah, Liberty Insurance, cool, and it just gets ingrained. And then when they go to search for insurance, they're like, oh yeah, Liberty is a good one when they go with them. So I think that's true, again, of wherever the price point is. But it is definitely true that the higher the price point, the probably the more people you're going to have to reach to find the people who are willing to spend that much money. And often the longer it can take, just time-wise, to see the reaction to the video. So if you're selling a $5 widget, which is like, I'm going to make a decision right now whether or not to purchase, you have a pretty quick feedback loop. If you're running that for a couple of days and you're not seeing any sales, well, then it's probably not working with the current audience targeting and whatnot. So you need to change things. If you're selling, Peloton bikes, well, that's a decision people are going to take time. They're going to do research. They're going to talk to their spouse. They might be saving up money. And so it's going to take, probably weeks often before you really should expect to see a significant number of orders or requests or whatever coming in after people start seeing those ads.
Mm-hmm. Well, this has been informative. I know I still have more questions, but we are running out of time for today's episode. So I would love just to ask, first of all, too, do you have an offer that you would like to extend to our listeners? And if people have, more questions, they want to touch base with you, like how would they find you?
Yeah, we've got a couple free things people can take advantage of. So on our website, go to stubgroup.com/free. We have several free resources on there related to advertising and improving your advertising. And then also our YouTube channel, search Stub Group on there. We put lots of free content out there. And yeah, I'll give the offer. Subscribe to that so you get more of that content.
Perfect. And we will have access to that information too included in our resources for this episode, so anyone can find it there. But thank you so much for being a guest on my show and really talking on this topic. I know there's a lot of interest nowadays with where should I be posting ads? How should I be doing them? And YouTube is one of those top platforms. So I appreciate your giving us tips and information today.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Mhm. And to you, the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.